Hello everyone. So we are going to be talking about Survive to 25 and what we should be expecting.
Yeah, I think it's working.
Yeah. All right. So let's very brief 30-second intro, name and short recap of your experience in the industry.
My name is Mihai Pohontu. I'm the chairman of Amber. We're a game development agency in 10 countries, about 850 staff. We've been around since 2013. Before that, I held various game dev roles at Electronic Arts, at Activision, and Disney.
Thank you, Mihai. I'm Louis-Rene Auclair. I run Rocket Ride Games out of Montreal, video game agency, helping people with biz dev, creative, and production. Before that, I used to run a studio called Hybrid Creations, and before that, I was at Electronic Arts as a producer. Been in the industry about 22 years, and cycles that we're going through right now, I've been through them about 3 or 4 times.
Justin Berenbaum, I am GM of Xsolla Funding Club and VP of Strategy. Xsolla Funding Club is a digital matchmaking service for developers and publishers. Before that, I had a consultancy. I worked for Team 17, 505 Games, Activision for 7.5 years for Tony Hawk, Spider-Man. Started my career at Capcom in 1993, so probably before a lot of you were born. And I'm lucky I get paid to travel the world and talk to indie devs, try to help them find funding.
Cool. So, the sort of the setup for this conversation has been set by some of the previous talks today. So, if you were here for Sean's opening keynote, he talked about the state of the industry today, so it's pretty clear for everyone what's happening. The question I would like to start with, and actually 2 questions, and feel free to jump in as you'd like on this, but I'd like us to focus for a little bit on what to do in a situation like this. Where do we stand? How, whether you're an indie or a service provider or even a larger developer, what are your thoughts on what we should be doing? And also, I'd like your input on something that Sean said in the morning, which was he said that he expects that we're on the cliff going down and we're not at rock bottom yet, and he expected another 18 to 24 months until we hit rock bottom. So I would definitely like your take on that.
I'll take a stab at this. I think the majority of the people that I polled in the industry are looking at the recovery in 2025. So I think Sean is probably on the more pessimistic side of the spectrum, but it warrants concern. I mean, I think the industry is still in a tough spot. We were hoping for 2024 to be a good year, and it proved to be very challenging. External development, particularly for indie studios seeking funding or publisher support, it has been a very, very tough environment. Now, in terms of what we can do during these times, you have to focus on the fundamentals. You have to optimize your business to be break-even. You have to focus on your core strengths and try to excel at those. I think every recessionary cycle is a great opportunity to innovate. It's time to look seriously at creating efficiencies using AI in various forms, doing more with less, being more intelligent about procedural generation of assets, generative AI, and generally speaking, watch the economics. As an indie studio owner or as a large company executive, you have to take care of your team, make sure they are as productive as possible, and again, innovating in the best way.
I was going to say, for those who watched Sean's talk, I thought a lot was right on point, so I'm going to try not to repeat too much of it. I do agree, I think it was a little pessimistic, but the idea, so those of us who were at like DICE and GDC earlier in the year, the whole concept of Survive 25 came around, and personally I hated that concept, because nothing's going to change in 25. I think most of us, and most of you just starting, got fooled by 2020, 2021, and early 2022 that oh, this is what it should be like. You have a lot of really smart people, and people who've been doing it a long time got caught up in the business booming. Publishers invested in too much content. Developers over-budgeted, overspent. You had a lot of money going into crypto and blockchain, and all of that is some of the why we're at. But this isn't anything new. Those who were around in 27, 28, 29, when the economic crisis hit, and we used to think we were recession-proof, and then we got absolutely destroyed, which was actually the rise of free-to-play and Facebook and mobile gaming. This isn't new. It's different because the industry is so much bigger, so it feels more painful. But what's really happened is the number of games coming out has increased dramatically, but the number of games making money has actually shrunk a little. So it actually feels worse than it really is. The industry was actually up as a percentage by 2% last year. It's just where that money is concentrated. I think that's where everybody's feeling it.
Yeah, and one thing I would add to this is, Mihai said, focus on what you can be really good at, focus on your strengths, focus on what you can be the best in the world at. I would also say, leverage your relationships that are very, very strong. In these situations, it's time to go to the people that you've worked with before, try to get repeat business. It's much easier to do repeat business than to start a new relationship. And be smart. Don't think about the deals. If you had deals in the past, like the deals you got in the previous years, they no longer count. Unfortunately, some of the deals you're going to get are looking not as great as they used to. But you have to do what you can to continue and make more games. As long as you're making games, you can make it. It's when you stop making games that it's difficult to continue because you have nothing to produce. So always find a way to get the right deal, the right core concept for your game that you can make it. Going for a game at $15, $10 million, or if you made games at 200K, going for $1 million, that's not what's going to happen right now. Focus on what you've done great and just try to improve on that.
I was just going to say the other thing that's happening in the background, money's gotten expensive. Before and during the pandemic, a big company could borrow money at 2%, which was almost free. And so a lot of stuff was being financed with debt. Nobody's financing anything with debt right now, and so that's also tied up a lot of the money. But I agree, focus on what you're good at, don't over budget, and those of you starting a studio, make sure you understand the business of games, not just making games.
Yeah, it's time to go out there and make new friends. So those of you that are here at Dev.Play, you're definitely doing the right thing. You should continue reaching out. And by the way, talk to these fine gentlemen because they specialize in helping indie studios achieve success, and they've done it many times in their career. And I would like to add something in regards to the forecast. It's interesting to know that the folks that I spoke with in the investment community are seeing increased activity. It's definitely not back to the glory days of 2021, 2022, but it's definitely better than it has been in the last half of 2023 and the start of the year. So things are improving in investment, and if that continues, it will pull the rest of the industry with it. It's a good bellwether for how the industry is going. But this season of harvesting efficiencies in large companies and the layoffs will eventually end. And my expectation is that we will see a marked improvement towards the end of this year and beginning of next year.
So some things have been said here. We talk about streamlining things. We talk about investing in learning. This all sounds good, but some people may feel, okay, how do I actually do that? And I would like to ask you guys if you can share actual examples from maybe your companies or other companies that you've come in touch with of things that those people have done in this difficult environment and that worked well for them, just to serve as inspiration for some of the other folks here.
Yeah, you're talking about optimizing what you're doing? Okay.
Optimizing or just, good practices that you have seen people actually doing during the last year and a half.
We talked about this. We talked about relationships. We talked about finding new people to work with or to partner with. And I think one of the mistakes we do as indie studios is when we get a deal or contract or when we start making a game, we think too much about how big is our studio, how many people do we have. And we start hiring people that are going to be necessary 60% of the time on a project, but you pay them 100%. And all of a sudden you add those people to your team, and that burns your profit because you're going too aggressively to build a team. And you shouldn't do that. There's many service providers like Amber or any other company, smaller than one sometimes, that are there to help. And then you can say, hey, I need a tech artist. Hey, I need a dev QA, but I don't need it for the full time. Don't hire him. How many people do I see in an indie studio that hire a guy that's in charge of music? Like, I love music and video games, but you don't need somebody full time. So be smart, and instead of paying, I'll make up numbers, $50,000 for something to do music, somebody to do music as a salary, maybe you can have somebody do it for 22, but he's just going to work partly with you. And that's $28,000 that you're saving for future use. So don't be so fast to spend the money to show you're a bigger studio, but show you're a smart studio and you can make more with less by doing the right partnerships for what you need.
One of the big things that we did at Amber at the onset of this crisis, of this recessionary cycle, is that we started looking outside of our company to find studio partners. And we did this, we were forced by the events. You know, we were lucky enough throughout the history of Amber that we've kind of always grown every year. We never had demand variability like we experienced in 2023, where a lot of projects were canceled and we had significant issues signing new deals. You know, as an agency, you're always chasing the next contract, right? And you need to continually sign new contracts in order to be viable as a company. So we chose to manage variability by having more reliance on external studios that we collaborate with. And I think that is a great thing for the global industry to distribute work in that fashion. It gives further opportunities. You know, Amber has built-in advantages due to size. We have a large business development team. We're represented by Louis-Rene here. He's finding us deals from time to time. And so we have access to, you know, large publishers and entities that are funding work in the industry in ways that smaller studios simply cannot match. But we can offer the work to them. You know, so for us, this has been very useful. We've learned a lot in the process, and we continue to learn. We have about 3,400 game developers in our broader network currently, if we kind of map out the studios, and also individual collaborators all over the world. You know, I said, you know, Amber is physically present in 10 countries. There are actually 10 legal entities to Amber worldwide, but we've started to recruit globally. For all the disciplines, and this has really kind of opened us up in a really profound way to the world. And so that's one thing that I would also advise. If you can, try to extend your studio by finding talented people in other countries that are looking for work, and you're bound to see more efficiencies from that in the long haul, not just economic, but you'll actually learn things. People do things differently, and you know, sometimes they have better methodologies, better tools. You know, if you haven't experienced, you know, AI tools, like just working with a contractor that has specialized in that area could really open up interesting opportunities.
I agree completely. I was going to say, one of the things I tell every developer, and this is not going to sound encouraging, but go into it assuming you're not going to find a publisher. Go into it assuming you're not going to find an investor, but you have an audience that you know you want to nail your game with. Focus on that. Start basically becoming your own publisher, even if you're not going to self-publish. Build a community. Start early. Get them interested in the game or your studio. Build an audience. The surest way to get investment is to bring an audience with you. If you show up at my door and you say, I've got 5,000 people on Discord and 25,000 wish lists already, and all I've done is a couple videos and a few announcements, you're probably going to get money. If you show up and you're starting your first game and you've got no following, no awards, it's going to be hard. Investors, I'll be honest, we're chicken. We like to know other people are interested in your project before we want to sign it. So figure out how you get other people interested. It doesn't have to be a big audience, but show you can build a community without any money, then it's much easier to build a community with money.
I'd like to follow up on this particular topic. So, some people in our audience and anyone else who might be seeing this recording later, we have a lot of indies in our network and who are working on their own games. It's really dry out there. You, Justin, you mentioned something that potential investors or publishers are looking for, and that is a community. What are other green flags for investors or publishers, or the other way around, what are some things that completely turn them off so people can avoid them? In this current environment, not in general.
Well, I mean, one of the little pet peeves, I don't know if it's a red flag, but I mean, do you show up for a job interview without knowing the company you're meeting with and the person you're meeting with? The number of people that I have meetings with pitching me stuff that I know nothing about the fund that I help run, haven't done their homework, and again, I don't expect them to know me very well, but understanding or talking to the other developers we've worked with, it's just some basic stuff is a red flag, because if you're not going to put the effort for something as important as potentially getting money, it makes me worry about your effort for the game. So there's some things like that, and then, I mean, a green flag is just being prepared, knowing who your audience is for the game, knowing why they're going to care, knowing if I got money, this is what I'm going to be able to do with it, how I want to know exactly how you're going to use the money. I need to understand you know how to run a business, and you're not going to go out of business before you ship the game. Developer blackmail is real. I know the industry likes to point out publishers are evil and investors are evil, and yes, there's plenty of bad publishers and investors, but in my career, I've been screwed over by developers way more than I've been screwed over by publishers and investors when I was at the studio. And a lot of times it's on accident, sometimes it's on purpose. Sometimes they pitch me a game that I know needs to be $500,000, but they're pitching it at $300,000. Pitching for too little is worse than asking for too much. Somebody asks for a little bit too much, I'll negotiate, I'll figure out what it's for. They ask for too little, I either think they're lying or they don't know what they're doing. Either way, that's a huge red flag.
Yeah, I think on the side of the green flag, for me, the more, I gotta say this, the more obvious it is that people are gonna be good to work with, the better, right? So how do they respond to feedback? How much are they prepared to meet with you? Because investors or publishers are gonna look at this, am I willing to work with that person for 3, 4, 5 years, right? So if you respond poorly to feedback, if you're slow to respond to feedback, if you either agree on everything or disagree on everything, if you go in there with a partially okay demo and a partially okay pitch because you're in a rush to pitch, all these things are information that investors and publishers look at, and they need to feel the confidence that the partnership they're going to enter with you in is a partnership they can do for a long time. One of the key points I tell to people is, when I sign a new client at Rocket Ride, am I excited to see the phone ring and see your name on it? Do I want to pick up the phone, or am I going to be like, oh, fuck, I'm going to talk to that person again about something annoying? That sends a strong message that you shouldn't sign them as a client. And for you, if the publisher feels the same way, like, oh my God, it's Justin again, he's going to ask me for another thing. Like, come on,
People say that all
dude.
the time anyway.
Yeah. So that's really important to show how good of a partner you can be right off the bat by having the right tools and being prepared the right way and showing at the pitch or whatever in a collaborative way. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Or you simply don't pitch to publishers and figure out an intelligent way to self-publish. You know, it's an adverse time to find an interested publisher right now, so maybe it is also an opportunity for you to perfect community marketing, build a community around your game, try to survive by maybe taking a loan or find some angel investors and kind of, you know, invest your team in the success of the product as a form of compensation in order to lower the salaries that you pay outright. Those are all things that you should be looking at seriously and experimenting with if you have the bandwidth, you know, the economic bandwidth to finish your game. I would definitely take that seriously. I know it's a little controversial to like advise self-publishing in such a competitive market. It's really a bloodbath out there with so many games releasing, and many of them have massive marketing budgets, especially from the incumbent publishers. But it can be done, and many indie teams have been successful. So,
yeah, and you can fail fast doing that. Failing fast is amazing. Like people don't see it, right? And building a community early, having dev diaries, showing videos and pitch to your community and trying to engage with them like that. If you can't build a community, that's a message the community is sending you. So it's important sometimes to realize that not all games need to be made. And you need to take that decision quickly and fail fast and go to a different game that might be better. So I think pre-publishing, which might turn into self-publishing or finding a publisher, is critical right now. You need to be talking to what you believe your audience is and seeing that connection right away.
I was going to say, sometimes build something and ship it. Build something smaller, maybe that features a core mechanic that you really want to perfect. Ship it, and if that works, great, build on it. I think too often people are too ambitious about their first projects. And I said this earlier, there's a quote Mike Tyson has that everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Shipping your first couple games is getting punched in the mouth. And if you haven't done it before, all the shit that goes wrong those last 6 months is, if you haven't been through it, it's almost impossible to understand. And so build something, ship it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Do the best you can. Learn from it. Get pipelines better. Then work on the next one.
yeah, on that note, I would say that probably the most important skill to have during this time is resilience as a developer. Just keep at it. Keep fighting the good fight. And look, if you're inside of a major corporation, because not everyone here is an indie, right? If you're inside a major corporation, this is the time to learn new skills and to position yourself properly for the upcoming changes that are happening in the industry. It's a good time to look laterally. Maybe there's a specialization that you could immerse yourself in, take some training courses. There's so much information available online on any topic. You can educate yourself and acquire the skills for what will emerge as a new golden era in games. Without a doubt, this recessionary period will end and the industry will emerge, but it will be a very different place. You know, one thing that I've seen in games, I've been in games for 24 years now. It's crazy to think about it, but you know, any challenging period creates the premise of a huge uptake on the tail end of it, right? So if you're positioned properly, yourself personally, or your company or studio, you're bound to reap the rewards of what's coming next. So, you know, look at the marketplace and find out the niche or find out the specialization that caters best to your passion and to what is emerging in the industry.
Mihai, you kind of answered the question I wanted to ask. I wanted to ask about, you know, what should people be focused on when it comes to, you know, learning or reskilling or so you touched on some of that. I don't know if Justin or Louis want to add anything to that, but we're going to open the floor to questions. Before that, if you were to distill all of this into like one single most important piece of advice that you think, what would that be for each of you?
Keep the faith. Just keep doing what you're doing, focus, optimize, get better, and continue fighting the good fight.
I was not ready for this question. I would
It wasn't
say
in the script.
go the extra mile for absolutely everything you're doing. Everybody out there that's going to be pitching for money, pitching for publishing deals, are going to be pitching for their lives. So if you pitch on something, if you make a demo, if you make a pitch, if you make a design, and you're just like, oh, maybe I'll win this, no, you won't. You gotta go at it as if your life depends on it, because it's always gonna be somebody else's most important pitch.
I said it earlier, I love this. Sometimes the secret to success is surviving long enough to get lucky. And so we talked about it, I mentioned it. Just figure out ways to stay alive, stay afloat, take on, I talk to a lot of indie studios, they say, well, I don't want to do co-dev work, I'm too good for this, I only want to work on my own game. If I hear that, it turns me off, because I want people that are willing to do whatever it takes to succeed, get better at what they're working on, and use that for the game that I'm paying for. So I just think figure out a way to get really good at something and keep going. Then if you don't, then, you know, look, this business is tough, it's creative, and it's not ever going to be easy. And so I just think, like Louis said, you've got to be just willing to go the extra mile, always.
So yeah, definitely a pattern here. So Mihai said resilience, Louis said go the extra mile, and Justin, yeah, your point sort of amplified that as well. So, all right.